Podcast.
Welcome to Our Weird World. I'm your host, John Henson, and today, part 5, the 5th time that we have done some ghost stories, and I'm gonna try my best to just get into the story and make it believable, like it really happened. But you know that I have a hard time with these, and there's just a lot of really difficult things that make it, very unbelievable that, hey, maybe some people are just crazy, or maybe there's a more logical explanation for this and that ghosts aren't real. But I don't know. Listen, if you believe that ghosts are real, that's fine. Here's the thing. All right. I've probably said this on past episodes before, but there's a possibility that I've seen a ghost. I don't know what else it could have been, but let me paint the picture for you. I was 12 years old or something. I was a little kid, and my brother had kind of this toy table or whatever, and I was waiting for my friend to come over and drop off a video game that he had borrowed. And so I got up early because he was supposed to come over early, and I fell asleep on the couch. And then I heard the doorbell ring, and I woke up because he was here. And when I woke up, I looked at my brother's toy table, and there was just this old man with he was all white. All of him was white. And he had a long white beard, a white hat, a white suit, whole Colonel Sanders vibe going. And he had this really fluffy white cat on his lap. Think of the Fancy Feast cat. It was exactly that cat. And he was just sitting on the toy table. And I just stared at him, and he was staring at me. And then he just kind of dissolved into the air. And that was pretty weird. And then I got my game and I just went on about my day. But that's probably what happened was that it was not the ghost of the former racist slave owner of that property or nearby property, but it was probably my brain was still in dream mode and I was jolted awake out of that. And so it was almost like a quasi sleep paralysis demon, but it wasn't. So I don't know, but who knows? And then, I don't know, my wife has said she's had some ghost encounters and stuff, and so maybe, who knows? But I don't know. Here are 3 stories, and maybe I've kind of talked myself into it. I've got myself hyped up now. So let's get into these 3 stories and see what it could possibly be. I'll tell you what they are. You've never heard of them before. I don't know why I'm doing this. But it's the stories of Resurrection Mary, Virginia Campbell, and then our first story will be of Carl Pruitt.
Story time. Story time. Story time? Story time.
We start in 1938 when stories began appearing about a killer ghost in eastern Kentucky. Although no one ever actually saw it themselves, it was attributed to at least 5 otherwise unexplainable deaths in the area. So, starting in June of 1938, Carl Pruitt came home from work and found his wife in bed with another man. And that's bold. That's the trope. Again, one of the tropes I talked about, I guess it was last week, talking about how Gerhard Strider left the woman he married the day after the wedding. And that's a real crazy move because there's so much happening around a wedding. It's really difficult to do that. And so this was the other one. whoever, like if you're cheating on someone, the balls that you have to be doing it with them in your bed while there is a chance that your significant other would then come home and find you, it is crazy short-sighted. And yet it happens constantly. I'm not saying, actually I am saying, if I was gonna, I'm not, but if I was gonna, I'm not bringing them back to the house. Unless, I'm just not. Like there's, and again, I got like nosy neighbors. Like I got neighbors who are like within very close proximity to us. They're gonna see, so like I can get by that because it's Eastern Kentucky. It's rural Appalachia. Like there's probably no one around for miles. But also, like to bring this dude to your house. And maybe it was her only option because, like, it's not like the woman is going to go out into the Appalachian wilderness by herself to make a trek to get some of that dick. Go and get it. Go bring it to the house. All right? So, whatever. I'm just saying, it's fraught with logical shortcomings. That's the whole point. Anyway, but Carl Pruitt came home, found his wife in bed with another dude. That guy escaped by jumping out of the bedroom women. So, reasonably, probably, I get it, Pruitt strangled his wife to death with a chain before then he killed himself. You get it. A few weeks after Pruitt was buried, visitors to the cemetery began noticing a chain-like pattern forming on the gravestone, which discolored the headstone and formed the links into the shape of a cross. And then once the cross was complete, the pattern just stopped growing, prompting residents to claim that the headstone was haunted and that it needed to be removed from the cemetery. County officials thought that was really stupid and ignored them. Well, a month later, a group of boys were riding their bicycles by the cemetery and decided to throw rocks at Pruitt's quote-unquote cursed gravestone. The bravest boy, James Collins, threw several stones at the grave and actually chipped a few pieces of it away. After the boys had their fun, then they rode back home. However, on the way, James Collins' bike began picking up speed and wouldn't slow down. It's hills, man. They're in Appalachia. Like, there's hills everywhere. And if the brakes on his bike went out, I don't even know if bikes in the 1930s had brakes. Not a huge bike expert, all right? I'm going to be real with you guys. I never learned how to ride a bike, all right? And there's a lot of reasons for that. One, I have balance issues, all right? Can't do it. Also, I grew up on the side of a highway. Not a real safe environment to ride a bicycle. So I just never learned. It is what it is. Let's move on. Keep your judgment to yourself. Homeboy here in Eastern Kentucky, James Collins, he's chipping off this cursed gravestone, throwing rocks at it. He's going home. His bike keeps picking up speed. Can't slow down. He loses control, veers off the road, smashes into a tree. The bike's chain, crazy enough, somehow separated from the bike and then wrapped itself around this kid's neck and choked him to death. Okay. Even stranger, after the boys had told their side of the story, authorities investigated Pruitt's gravestone to find that nothing had been chipped off of it, despite what the kids were saying. Oh, but no, it's totally unexplainable. It's not like, oh, maybe this kid just had an accident and then the boys just strangled him with the bike chain. Either A, here's what probably happened. Either A, these kids were just riding their bikes around and James Collins actually got into an accident because they were horsing around or something. And he like smashes into a tree. And then either A, or, one option is they just choked him to death with the bike chain to put him out of his misery because he was like really mangled from it. Or James was kind of the kid that everyone hated and all of the other kids decided to get together and murder this kid. That's probably what happened. Not the demon angry spirit of this dude's ghost somehow getting revenge for him getting, chips off of his headstone and then magically putting it back together again after the kid was dead. Okay. Anyway, I know what I said, guys. I can't help it. I was out when they said killer ghost, but that is what it is. A month after this kid died, with the community still in an uproar over Pruitt's haunted gravestone, Pruitt's mother went out to the cemetery and destroyed the gravesite with an axe, busting the headstone into dozens of pieces. The next day, as she hung clothes out to dry on her clothesline, which guess what her clothesline was made out of? All right. I know a lot of you probably don't remember clotheslines. I do. All right. I had one. We had one in our backyard for a while. It was real stupid. Also, can we talk about how dumb clotheslines are when you have a dryer, especially in the South? Are you hanging clothes out in the spring to dry? Why? They're just going to get full of pollen and dirty again. Anyway, I don't know why I got so upset about clotheslines there, but I did. I also got clotheslined by a clothesline. I was running home one day and there was a clothesline in the backyard of some other house and I totally forgot it was there and I just whack. I mean, it whiplashed me hard. It's pretty sweet. Anyway, Pruitt's mom's clothesline was somehow made of linked chain rather than the wire that it normally is made out of. Interesting. Convenient. She slipped, somehow entangling herself in the clothesline and strangling her to death. And I don't believe that for a second, right? Because here's the thing, guys. Clotheslines, the line is about 6 feet off the ground because you don't want your clothes dangling, touching the ground. Or if you're hanging out sheets to dry, towels, whatever the case is, right? And so you're going to tell me that this woman who's probably 50s, 60s, 70s, she's not more than 6 feet tall unless she had some comical cartoon slip where she slips on a banana peel or something and then just launches herself up into the air and then comes down on this clothesline, which then somehow strangles her to death with it. No, I'm not buying it. I'm out on this story completely. Whatever. She somehow slips and entangles herself in the clothesline and strangles herself to death. Even more, Pruitt's gravestone was found to be perfectly intact the next day. I'm just saying maybe someone murdered this woman with her clothesline. Maybe someone murdered her with her clothesline. That's probably what happened. She didn't slip and then get comically entangled in it like those bad info commercials. Jesus. Anyway, sometime later, a farmer and 3 members of his family were driving past the cemetery and talking about Pruitt's haunted gravestone. The farmer, who was bragging that he didn't believe in any of it, like me, then took out his revolver and fired several shots at the gravestone. The sound of the gunshots spooked the farmer's horses, who then began sprinting at full speed down the road. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Although the rest of the family jumped off, the farmer held on to the reins as the horses rounded a sharp turn, at which point he was thrown from the carriage. As he fell, he became snagged on one of the trace chains attached to one of the horses, which snapped his neck. So he gets yeeted off of this carriage. All right, let's think about how this works again. Horses out in front of the carriage. Fine. They're going around a sharp turn. Let's call it a right-hander. They're going around a right-handed turn. He's going to get flung to the left of the carriage. How physics works is that the carriage is going to keep going forward. He's going to keep going to the left. He's not, especially his head. His head's going to be going back. His legs are going to be going forward at best. So if anything's going to get caught around a chain, it's going to be one of his legs and he's going to get dragged. His head is not going to get... whatever. I believe it up until that point. All right? Because that has nothing to do with the ghost. That's just him being a dick. But whatever. Allegedly, he got snagged on one of the chains and snapped his neck. So now... Allegedly, with 3 people dead thanks to Pruitt's grave, local residents now petitioned their congressman to fix the problem. 2 police officers were sent to the cemetery to investigate, but found nothing out of the ordinary. But As they got back in their patrol car, the officer in the driver's seat noticed a bright light quickly approaching them. The officer panicked because police, they're very panicky, you know, and I guess this was before a time when they would just shoot at things when they're scared. But the officer panicked and sped off, eventually swerving off the road and crashing between two posts. Well, the officer in the passenger seat was thrown out of the car, but only sustained minor injuries. All right. He didn't get comically strangled to death in some weird, impossibly physical way. The officer who was driving, though, guess what? He was strangled to death by the chain that was dangling between the two posts that the car had crashed through. No, he wasn't. That's so not true. I don't believe that for a second. Anyway, following the fourth death now associated with the haunted gravesite, local residents just stopped going to this cemetery altogether. One man, Arthur Lewis, he refused to believe that any of this was what was related. Respect to Arthur. And so one day he went to the cemetery with a hammer and began destroying Pruitt's gravesite. Unnecessary. When a loud scream filled the night air, curious residents ran to the cemetery to find that Lewis was now dead. And guess what, guys? The chain used to lock the cemetery gate at night had been wrapped around his neck. I think there's a serial killer. All right? Can't say anything about Pruitt's mom or the police officer or the farmer, but I don't know, man. Actually, yes, Pruitt's mom. But Pruitt's mom, this dude, and the kid. I'm guessing there's a serial killer. They're all getting strangled to death. I don't know. That's all. That's a more plausible conclusion than this angry ghost killing people. But whatever. Following Arthur Lewis's death, residents exhumed the graves of everyone else in the cemetery and reburied them in other locations. In 1958, the area was fully destroyed to make room for a strip mining operation, and no other deaths related to Pruitt's grave have been reported. So, I don't believe it. Moving on now, at some other point in the 1930s, a woman named Mary was dancing with her boyfriend at the O. Henry Ballroom in Chicago, or at least the Chicago suburb of Willow Springs. During the course of the evening, the couple got into an argument and Mary stormed out. And as she walked down Archer Avenue, she was struck and killed by a driver who quickly fled the scene and was never found. Mary was eventually buried in Resurrection Cemetery, crazy name for a cemetery, by the way, in a white dancing dress and matching dancing shoes. In 1939, Jerry Palis was spending an evening at the Liberty Grove and Hall in Chicago when he met this beautiful woman. The two danced for hours and even kissed at the end of the night. And when it was time to leave, the woman asked Palis to drive her home. So as he drove down Archer Avenue, remember, same road, the woman asked him to stop, which just so happened to be in front of Resurrection Cemetery. The woman then got out of the car and vanished in front of the cemetery's entrance. And from there, the legend of Resurrection Mary was born. Did any of that happen? I don't know. In 1973, Mary was seen again at Harlow's nightclub. She was also seen by a cab driver who went into Chet's Melody Lounge across from the cemetery to ask why the young lady he had just driven had left without paying the fare. Between 1976 and 1989, multiple people reported hitting Resurrection Mary with their cars outside of the cemetery's entrance, only to find that she had vanished when they got out to check on her. And this, even if it's real, that's a dumb ghost to just keep constantly getting hit by cars. I don't know the rules of ghostisms, but I don't know. It seems unfair that if you die by getting hit by a car, you're just eternally getting hit by cars. That seems like a weird cosmic punishment, because by all accounts, there's nothing wrong with this girl, nothing wrong with this lady, but just because she died by getting hit by a car, she's just forever getting hit by cars in the afterlife when she's reappearing as a ghost. I don't know, man. Seems silly. On January 31st, 1979, an extremely Chicago-y cab driver named Ralph was interviewed for a story in the Suburban Trib newspaper about his encounter with Resurrection Mary. Ralph stated that Mary was a looker, a blonde, She was young enough to be my daughter, 21 tops. He went on to state, and this is a direct quote, and I will try to do my best Chicago accent. A couple miles up Archer there, she jumped with a start like a horse and said, "Here, here." I hit the brakes. I look around, didn't see no kind of house. Where? I said. And then she sticks her arm out, points across the road to my left and says, "There." And that's when it happened. I looked to my left like this, look, check, low shot. When I turned, she was gone, vanished. And then the car door never opened. May the good Lord strike me dead. Never opened. Okay. Historians believe that Resurrection Mary may have actually been Mary Bregovy, who died in 1934 after a car accident on the Chicago Loop, because that's the only other one that kind of was in that same time frame. Another theory suggests that Mary was actually Anna Maria Norcus, who died in a 1927 car accident on the way home from a night at the O. Henry Ballroom. But regardless, Resurrection Mary is one of the most famous ghost stories in Chicago, with more than 30 reported encounters since the 1930s, mostly of just people hitting this poor woman with their car. Our final story here. In November 1960, 11-year-old Virginia Campbell's life got super hard. Her family had moved to Souchy, Scotland. I assume that's how you say it. I don't know. But her father had chosen to stay back in Ireland to run the family's farm while her mother took a job near the family's new home in Dollar. Her father had also kept her beloved dog Toby with him back in Ireland, which is weird because it's not like they got divorced, but like half the family moved to Scotland, but the father keeps the dog back in Ireland to keep running the farm. I don't get it. But again, it's 1960. It's still kind of post-war. People are struggling. Maybe. The family soon moved in with their relatives Thomas and Isabella Campbell, and Virginia was forced to share a room with her cousin Margaret. On November 22nd, 1960, the two girls began hearing strange noises in their bedroom. It sounded like a ball bouncing off the wall, but they couldn't see anything that could be making that noise. As they went downstairs to tell the adults, it seemed as though the sound was following them. The adults, thinking that all of this was very silly, ushered the children back to bed. And then once things had quieted down, the children were startled by the sound of the headboard banging, because probably someone's doing it in the next room. Over the next few days, the girls began hearing scratching noises all over the house. Items would completely disappear, only to reappear in a different spot weeks later. They also saw the linen basket open on its own and ornaments move around without anyone touching them. When Thomas and Isabella saw their entire sideboard move several inches from its place along the wall, they finally believed Virginia's claims that something weird was going on. And soon, the Souchy poltergeist became kind of a local sensation. On one occasion, the Campbell's neighbors even heard knocking sounds coming from inside the house next door. It's how loud it was. With no clear answers, the Campbells asked local minister T.W. Lund to visit the house and cleanse it. After inspecting the bedroom, Lund concluded that the noises were coming from inside the wooden bed frame and that there was nothing he could do about it. Yeah, you got demons inside your bed. I can't bless the bed. It's weird. You're tough luck, I guess. On November 24th, 2 days later, a sewing machine turned on by itself. A vase and an apple began moving on their own. And then when Virginia went to school the next day, she began having trouble opening the lid on her desk. When the teacher told Virginia to remove her hands because I guess she was like pressing down on it, the desk lid flew open and began flapping, eventually slamming itself closed, probably freaking out everybody if that actually happened. After another desk levitated a few inches off the ground, the rest of the students in the class probably freaked out and it was just total chaos. Despite taking sedatives from a local doctor, the paranormal activity continued. Of course it was, because it's not like she was doing it, obviously. The doctor and Pastor Lund continued to observe the odd activity in the house and decided to move Virginia out of the house and over to the home of Dr. William Logan. Still, the activity followed, and the doctors observed more unexplainable knocking in Dr. Logan's house. The doctors eventually installed a small camera to capture the phenomenon where they recorded knocks and furniture moving on its own. I would love to see that footage. In other instances, Isabella Campbell was pushed out of her bed. Virginia also later began making moaning noises as if she were in pain. After about a month of this, Virginia had named her poltergeist Wee Huey and had seemingly gotten used to all of the strange occurrences that followed her around. And then, inexplicably, by March of the following year, the activity stopped altogether and Virginia lived out the rest of her life in peace. I have no idea how to explain that, so I don't know, demons and such.
All done.
There you go. Ghost Stories Part 5 in the books. You know, I would say one of those stories definitely total BS. 2 and 3, sure. If you want to believe in those, fine. They seem innocent enough. But let's recap these and see what we learned today.
What did we learn?
Number 1, Carl Pruitt. Was he a killer ghost, or was there probably like a lot of shenanigans going on? Also, didn't ever say like what the name of the town was, so I don't even know if any of this story is actually true. Could just be like random weird folklore. Number 2, Resurrection Mary. Dumb little ghost who keeps getting hit by cars in Chicago. I don't know. Learn how crosswalks work or something. Anyway, and number 3, Virginia Campbell, her little Wee Huey poltergeist. You know, maybe she was just mad about having to leave her dog and her dad behind in Ireland, so she's just causing problems in Scotland, and then she got bored and got used to living in Scotland. Or
What did we learn?
And you know what? While we're on that, like, that's one of the things about poltergeists that I don't think get talked about enough. Because, like, there are so many stories about poltergeists where the whole premise is like, oh, this kid, this teenager was, you know, experiencing some trauma and that attracted the demonic supernatural forces. And it's like, that's a selling point to scare your kids that I don't think gets talked about enough. If you had told me that if I get stressed out and freaked out enough that I could attract paranormal demonic forces that'll wreck my life, I'm probably going to get right real quick. I'm probably going to, you know, give myself a little attitude adjustment and start, you know, maybe going to therapy or something. But I don't know. It just seems like that's the pattern. So many of these poltergeists, oh yeah, this kid had some things happen. Like the one that I think about was, oh God, what was his name? The Ernie Rivers, where he was just like, his mom had murdered his dad and then went to prison. So he got sent to live with his grandma, and then some paranormal stuff started happening. I mean, in that story, it was pretty obvious that he was just screwing with everybody. But like, that's the general premise though. Like, this kid gets uprooted or has something happen they don't like, and then weird things start happening, and it's definitely not them just passively aggressively acting out. It's demons and poltergeists and such. Anyway, big selling point that I think if we want to start scaring our kids, I might do that when Finn and Elliot get to that age. It's like, all right, keep acting up. Demons will start coming out here. We live in an old house. Who knows what kind of ghosts live in here? You keep acting out, demons gonna come get you. Start throwing things across the room. Anyway, so that's where my brain is. Next week on the show, 3 more stories of people who defied the death penalty. It's as simple as it sounds. 3 people got the death sentence, and then they didn't end up dying. And it's crazy how it happened. So we will look at those 3 stories be of Joseph Samuel, Anne Green, and Ludger Silberis. They're fun. It would be some fun stories next week. So thank you for continuing to listen. Keep telling all your friends. And keep it weird.
This is a podcast